Hey everyone, thank you for tuning into the iConis podcast. And today on the episode, there's no Rod. Rod's busy. He's DJing. He's doing all this stuff. He's got Barbados on the Boulevard, BIM on the Boulevard. That's coming up, near the end of July. So look for that if you're in Toronto. He's pretty much the spokesperson for that. So me and Larry got together to keep it going, and we're going to talk about, I don't know, forgotten ideas, the comic book industry. It's an overall chat that we're going to have once or for, one to a few times. So we're not fan casting anything. It's just going to be a full out discussion with our opinions on the comic book state today. And there's only one thing left to do. Roll the intro. Everyone, thank you once again for tuning into the iConis podcast. This is Barry 3D on your side, and you can find me simply at barry3d.com. That's my website with all my stuff. And we don't have Rod today, but don't worry, we got Larry. Larry,
yeah,
my brother from another mother. Where can we find you?
Well, first, let's make sure they can find Rod over at Mr. Rod C on Instagram, and you can find me at the Forgotten, Obscure, Underrated Comic Characters page on Facebook.
Exactly. And people, don't forget, you got to follow the rules, you got to accept the rules, and you got to follow the rules, and then you'll have a good time. When you break them, you're on your own. All right. And on top of that, Larry, thank you so much for doing all those YouTube shorts you've been doing for us. They've been doing phenomenal, and they're fun to see because Larry just has been pitching some weird ones at me, which is going down the rabbit hole, which hopefully he might mention some of them today on today's episode. So that's going forward. And of course, last but not least, if you need any kind of digital work done for your podcast or anything at all, be it if it's digital or physical, there's one man you should turn to, and that man is Jaybird Digital Arts. Mr. Jason Reese, Jaybird Digital Arts. You tell him you heard about him on the iConis podcast, and he will give you a discount on the work. All right. Well, we've got through that, and here we go. We're just going to say, get your coffee, get your, soft drink, water, day, night, put on your easy listening mode, tune out the kids for a little bit, or maybe have them listen, and we're going to get into this. So Larry came up with this idea. And I'm like, let's go for it. So where do you want to start with it, Larry? I know we talked about comic books today, characters. What's the industry? So where do you want to start, Larry? Hit me with it.
We got a lot of characters that have been around for ages, and everybody knows them. But, there's a lot of characters, I see one of them behind you, that disappeared. And why did they disappear? How did they disappear? A lot of different reasons. I mean, we can go back in the old days, back World War II. We had thousands, I swear, of patriotic characters pop up. Who's left? Captain America. Yeah, that's about it.
The most popular one, the only one I can really think outside of him is the Shield.
Right. And he left for a while and came back and left and came back. And the Shield came before Captain America. So, but we had Fighting Yank.
Yeah, very true.
You had Black Terror.
Yep.
Semi-patriotic character.
Yep.
You had the Americommando.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
What happened to these guys? Well, what happened to these guys is 1950s.
1950s.
Yeah, because in the 1950s, for some reason, was it that they weren't selling as well? And then the comics switched over a little bit more away from the superheroes to horror, romance, cowboys.
Yeah.
No.
The superheroes kind of disappeared at one point.
Yeah. A lot of those guys disappeared because the 1950s came about, the superheroes kind of stopped selling, and people started going toward, the TV Westerns. I mean, did you know that John Ritter's dad had a comic book?
No.
Tex Ritter.
Really? What was it? What was the comic book title? Or what was
Tex Ritter?
Tex Ritter.
Tex Ritter
Tales.
Really?
I had no idea.
Yeah. He was a cowboy in the 40s, 50s. The TV movie cowboy.
Those good old spaghetti westerns, and that's what gets me because I know, like, I saw a YouTube channel mention it, and they say there's like 8,600 like superhero characters or comic characters all overall. But then when you look at YouTube in general, and I'm not criticizing,
Hmm.
everyone goes for the main ones, right? So, from it's
Yeah.
either your X-Men and Marvel, or Fantastic Four, or Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, regardless of those titles. And those ones have kept going. And then there's other characters that have started off really small but got super popular. Like, I mean, like Wolverine. He was supposed to be a throwaway character. He wasn't even supposed to be. He was only supposed to be there for a few issues, and they were supposed to,
2 issues.
2 issues, okay, and they were supposed to X him, and because of popularity, they kept him, and they got rid of Thunderbird, John Proudstar, you
Yeah.
know, and they never
Yeah.
really. Well, I mean, they brought him back now, but he was gone for like multiple years, and I've talked about this on the show,
Hmm.
and this is why I like to have this podcast, right, and have it with Rod, have it with yourself when we have guests on there, because I'm not really, my focus really wasn't on the main ones that everyone talks about, even though I do touch on them. I'm not going to say not, but there's so many other interesting characters out there that they have the stories, they have the cool origins. Some of them, of course, have to be updated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Granted, even Iron
Well,
Man had to be
that's
updated.
yep. I mean, that's why I started up the Facebook group because I wanted people to learn about characters from history,
Right. Yeah.
characters that aren't around anymore. Maybe they're public domain, maybe they're not.
Mhm.
It all depends. Um, I mean, even coming a little forward, when Carlton got bought up by DC,
Right.
we had all these characters switch over, but a couple didn't,
Who didn't
like
make the cut?
Peter Cannon, Thunderbolt.
Oh yeah. Hey. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
There was a couple of other minor characters. I don't remember them off.
Right.
And Punch and Julie almost didn't, which was Blue Beetle's villains.
Came from, I didn't realize they came. Okay, see, I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything, but they came from Carlton. I thought they were always DC.
No, no, the original, the Punch and Julie. Carlton started with a Punch and Julie. I think DC did a Punch and Julie, but they were different characters than
Okay.
what is now. The
Right.
ones that
Right.
are around now are basically they were Captain Atom and Blue Beetle villains because the Carlton characters did they did intermix of it.
Right. Right. They had their own universe.
Yeah. Um, but not as much as like DC and Marvel does.
No, 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 no. But I think they were smaller. And that's the advantage because they had less characters. It was more it was easier to say, okay, they're not going to crisscross on each other's toes, and when they do,
Right.
you knew it was intentional, right? It wasn't
Right.
just Spider-Man swinging through. I always make the joke, swinging through New York, and he could pass Moon Knight. He sees the Avengers Mansion. He sees the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
He sees the Fantastic Four, Freedom Four Tower. You know what I mean? Like, you
I
could
mean, they
bump
used to do that
into
all the
some of these
time
people.
in the original Marvel when
Yeah.
when you'd have oh Johnny's looking out the window and there's Spider-Man swinging by of
Yes.
the Baxter building. So and but yeah, um, it wasn't a cameo. It was basically a cameo. Maybe okay, here's 2 panels, and you see they're in the same city.
Exactly.
But that's the thing about Marvel though. Everybody was in the same city,
Right.
unlike
Yeah.
DC where everybody's got their own city to patrol.
Right.
And Carlton was similar to DC in that way.
Mhm.
They kind of had their own city to patrol, but they would crisscross periodically by going over to the other's town.
And that makes sense, right? Because when you're
Yeah.
looking at the characters, I mean, if we're looking at Carl comics for a second, so I know the main ones is, okay. You had Blue Beetle, you had Captain Atom, right? You had the Question,
Yep.
Judo Master,
Judo Master, Nightshade.
Nightshade. Thank you. Right. So for them, they're coming from different backgrounds, right? I mean, if you look at the Question, for example, and then you look at Captain Atom, you clearly could see what the archetypes were supposed to be even back then. And for some of them to crisscross right now, to me, that's almost like the authority with Midnighter and, oh my god, Apollo and Midnighter.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty much who they're supposed to be. So I could see where they were crisscross at times. I could see where the dynamic would come in, and they could write it. They weren't so much dealing with the cosmic adventures, but one's military based and the other one is dealing with street crime. And
Mm-hmm.
lines blur, right? If you look at some of the stories, true stories that are coming out from the Vietnam War, where people were using coffins to smuggle drugs from Vietnam over to North
Yep.
American soil to distribute it, right? Like if you watch, was it Harlem? Not Harlem Nights. The Godfather of Harlem. There we go, Denzel
Hmm.
Washington, right?
Yeah.
Or even the one, the other one that's on Disney Plus, which is I think it's also Godfather. It's a similar name with
Not
Forrest
sure.
Whitaker.
Mm,
Yeah,
not
that one's more
sure.
of a series. It just came out more recently, and they did a couple of seasons. But that one, they get into Lucas, right, who was the main person, and that's how he was doing that connection. So if you're taking that and you're putting those elements into it to military to street level, of course they're going to crisscross. I can see
Yep.
that it's plausible for me.
Yeah.
And and going back to comics in general, what I would say is I remember like you would hear the editor in chief, right? Never knew, you always see, okay, this one's a penciler, this one's an inker, this one's a letterer, right? And then you had the editor in chief. And I know on a letters page one time it kind of explained years ago, I'm talking 80s, they're talking editor in chief, what's his role? And I think it was Jim Shooter was saying, well, my role is to make sure that the storylines make sense. So if you want to have, to your point, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four book, Johnny Storm looks out the window and he sees Spider-Man swinging by. He's got to make sure that Spider-Man that month, it's plausible for him to swing by and he wasn't off island, in the Savage Land
Right.
fighting or teaming with Kazar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he had to look through all the storylines, say, hey guys, he can't be swinging by this particular month because this month he's over here. It's not like it's Wolverine who gets no sleep and joins 10 teams.
Right. Yeah. That guy ridiculous too. But anyway. But I mean, but you got things like that. Carlton had people disappear. Had even before that, um, prior to Judo Master coming out, that particular line was called Gunmaster, and it was a Western hero who was a gunsmith, a traveling gunsmith.
Okay.
And then people said it was too violent, and they wanted to get rid of the guns because it's the '60s, and we're getting the comic
Right.
code getting really slammed down our throats. So they stopped that, and they created a new character and brought it out the next issue as Judo Master. So the title changed. That's why you'll never find a Judo Master #1.
Wow. So first appearance is not issue number one for Judo Master.
No, it's issue 90.
So Gunmaster was around from issue 1 to 89 then, and then flip roughly to okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, and then you have other things that where it's like, okay, and this is, I know you've got some of them where it's like, okay, here's our story, and then nothing. Wait a minute, you didn't finish. I
Well,
know which one you're going to hit. It's like,
good old Atlas Comics, Planet of Vampires.
that's one, but I was thinking another one.
Oh, which one you're going with?
DC Comics, Secret Society.
Yeah. Yeah. So Secret Society of Supervillains.
Yep. 17
And it has
issues and then nada.
and I mean, I get books get canceled. I know they have to have low sales, and I think I know I not think I know I talked about this with Rod like years ago, when it came to, like, the TV shows. If it should be in the clause that if you're going to cancel a show, at least do your best to do one wrap up episode, one wrap up storyline as much as possible, because there's subplots, be it if it's comedy or drama. Don't turn around and say, yeah, we've canceled it today. At least just say, hey, we're going to cancel. I think the studios that behind all this to say, hey guys, low sales, wrap it up. You got one or two books left. Wherever you're going, make a hard left and wrap it up.
Yep.
And there's books that I think people don't get to fully enjoy because of that, right? Like the Secret Society of Supervillains, they didn't wrap it up.
Nope.
Another one that I'm not sure it had a clear ending on the Marvel side was the Marvel Supervillain team up, which I enjoyed.
I
So that was
don't
Doctor
think
Doom.
I don't think it finished in its own book. That's the problem.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it was Doctor Doom first with Magneto, and then it was Doctor Doom with Namor, where he wore the black
Mhm.
leotard
Yep.
costume. And And then of course my guy jumped on what John Bryan was doing the art, so that's what makes me look twice. And I don't think that had a full proper ending. Same thing
No,
with the original Champions by Marvel. I say the original one, so that's like Black Widow, Hercules, Ghost Rider, Iceman, Angel, and Black Goliath joined later on.
he was
And
about to
then,
join.
oh, he was about to join. That's
He
right.
didn't officially join.
Right. It was Ben Foster, and he was helping out at their headquarters with their tech and stuff like that. So, okay,
Yep.
you're right. See, and once again,
And
John
Dark
Bryan,
Star. Dark Star
Dark
was a
Star.
full moon.
There we go. Right. Like,
Yep.
no final issue to say, oh, we disbanded because we had to deal with this. Nothing. Give him
No.
a one shot or something to wrap up a storyline.
Well, you got a mention of it when Angel and Iceman jumped over to New Defenders.
Okay. They did talk about it.
Yeah, they talked about it. It's like a few panels and that's it.
Yeah. And Angel was like, well, I'm financing it. All right.
Yeah, yeah. And then and everybody says, how do you put these characters together? Well, how do you put the Avengers together? They didn't make any sense either in the original form.
No.
But so everybody says, well, that's one of the reasons why. It's like, no, it just had low sales. And I mean, it was the West Coast Avengers before the West Coast Avengers.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And the fact
Yeah.
that, you had John Bryan that came on there. And what I remember is that at the time I was buying like different issues. So I had that one, and then they they crossed over in that big finale of Godzilla King of Monsters when Marvel was doing
Yep.
it.
Yep.
And that one gave him an ending. It's like, okay, like the movies, Godzilla just kind of leaves New York, goes about his business, and but everyone was attacking him at one point.
Yeah.
So, and the champions were in there. And there was another
Yeah.
book on the tip of my tongue that just didn't have, to me, didn't have a proper ending. It was like Champions. Okay, Godzilla was good. Like I said, even Shogun Warriors, they gave them a proper ending in their own, book. They did give the official ending in a Fantastic Four storyline
Yeah.
because it was almost like a two-parter, but they stopped it. But at that point, they were crisscrossing. They were, there was a crossover. I keep saying crisscrossing. There was a crossover with the Fantastic
Mhm.
Four at the end of their book, and then
Yeah.
and they ended up their story in Fantastic Four. So at least if you're not going to do it in their own book, maybe do it in someone else's book, but give them a proper goodbye.
Well, we lost all of Nova's cast except for Nova, basically for several years. Some of them still gone.
Hmm.
When Nova canceled, finishing up in Fantastic Four,
Yep.
in Xandar,
Yes.
and you know, and then Richard gets tossed back to Earth supposedly without his powers,
Yep.
but he becomes Kid Nova. So where did he get his powers back? I don't get that one. I never, you know.
So here, that one I can somewhat explain, even though it's not going to make sense, right? So I have the artworks on my other wall there, Mark. So because I was a huge, still am, original New Warriors fan. So when they
Right.
put together that team and I saw Kid Nova and when he did the advertisements for it, I was like, oh, okay. And then you realize it's Richard Rider. So literally in issue number 1, Night Thrasher pulls a Batman. He finds different
Mm-hmm.
people that can help him with a certain cause.
Yeah.
They're all young, like the Teen Titans ish, but they're not teens. He finds Richard Rider, who's walking around depressed, working at a gym. He didn't finish school. He's
Yeah.
working at a
No.
pizza shop as a delivery guy, and he snatches him off the street and said, "Rich Rider, I know you used to be Nova." And he's like, "What are you talking about, man?" And Night Thrasher holds him over the ledge of a building and drops him. No safety net, because he figured that once he had the power of Nova in him, even though they said they took it away, there was still some residual power that was in there, and it
All
needed a
right.
traumatic experience to jumpstart it, and that's what it was. So when he's
Mm.
falling, he starts to fly because he realizes, like, this guy's not moving to catch me. He's just a normal human with a skateboard on his back. Here
Right.
comes the pavement, and he just flew. So at one point he was super happy with it, saying, "Hey, how'd you know that this would trigger my powers?" And Night Thrasher
Mm-hmm.
gives the most honest answer and says, "I didn't." And that's what caused the hate love relationship between the two of them, because Richard Rider was so happy to have his powers back, but
Right.
at the same time, pissed that this guy almost killed him. Because, like, if my powers didn't kick in, what would happen? He goes, "You would have been,
Free pizza.
yeah, yeah." injured at best.
Uh, and then, okay, let's get to some of the things on the peripheries.
Mhm.
We have Epic Comics,
Yeah.
a division of Marvel,
Mhm.
and there's several ones that didn't finish, at least not at Marvel, and technically some of them still haven't finished, such as Behind You, Dreadstar.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, yeah, which is a bit of it's something that peeves me off a little bit because I find out I'm a distant relation to the guy who created that, and it's like, damn it,
Really?
it's distant. It's very distant.
Yeah.
So,
Still okay.
but yeah, but anyway, and then there was a series called Void Indigo.
I remember that.
You remember that?
I remember that. I never
Yeah,
read it. I remember seeing because I used to see a
it
lot
was
of the.
one of the big graphic now Marvel graphic now epic graphic novels.
Mhm.
When they were doing the X-Men, God Loves Man Kills, and Death of Captain Marvel, all that,
Okay,
and
yeah,
Dazzler the movie.
right,
Yeah,
yes.
it was one of those. And then they did a very truncated, like a 5-issue limited series that was supposed to be a 12 issue, and it never really finished. So I have no idea what happened to Jaeger, and this is a character I liked.
Right.
They took basically this Conanish warrior
Uh-huh.
who's just developing magical powers along with his being a barbarian in LA in 1980s. This is a story. No, can't finish it.
Can't finish it, right? Okay.
And then we can talk about some licensed characters, such as Micronauts and one of my favorites, Rom, the Space Knight.
See, this is why we friends.
Yeah, you can't even do anything with the other Space Knights because you can't use Rom. The other Space Knights belong to Marvel.
hmm hmm
But,
All right. See, here's as Peter Griffin would say, here's what grinds my gears. So huge into Rom. Rom has a lot of implications within the Marvel universe, right? He had his full storyline. Okay, fine. They did give him an ending in the Rom series, right? And and
sort
he's
of.
had his crossovers, so I was okay with that. What got me is when they came back with the mini series called
Mm-hmm.
Space Knights.
Yeah,
So it's Rom, but he's in human form. He's married to Brandy, so she goes
yep.
from Earth to this
Starshine.
planet, right? And they have kids, and he's now seen as royalty. He's now the new leader after everything he's gone through. It's like a King Arthur space story, and I'm like, beautiful. And then he has kids, and they bring in the other space knights, but they can't call him Rom, to your point, because of pesky lawyers and who owns
Yep.
what. And it was like a 5-issue miniseries, I think it was, or max 6.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. I bought each and every issue. I read those things till the staples came out. Had to buy other copies just to hold on to my collection. And they could have continued the story. And it looked like that's what we're going with, and it died. And the same thing with Micronauts. Marvel owned Bug. The licensing for Micronauts was so splintered, you didn't know who owned Space Commander, Arcturus Ran, and we did a whole video on because that's like to me, that was my comic book. Like my main thing was Micronauts issue number 8 was the kickoff for me to seriously start buying comics. I bought before, but seriously start buying them was that issue with the introduction of Captain Universe, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I always have a fondness for those properties. And what people forget, a little side
Yeah,
note
Courier is one
was
of my favorite characters.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Right? Like there we go. That's such a good, oh, so much good stuff. And with Rom, it's really he's the change with Rogue from the X-Men. Because when she tried to absorb his powers, Rogue was a villain, and it was because of trying to
Yeah.
absorb Rom, so to speak. She kind of took on his goodness, and that's what caused the shift in her mentality of saying, I don't want to be a villain no more. Like she was kind of on the fence, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back in a good way, and this is why we have Rogue as a hero. Oh, like I think the editors in chief back then really they had a lot to manage, but they did it to the best of their ability. Fans would call them out, and then at one point they just say, "Nope, every story is a self-contained story, so it doesn't matter." And this is why we get Wolverine on X-Men, X-Force, Avengers, his solo book.
Yeah.
He's everywhere. It's like what's his secondary mutation? Like we say, he doesn't sleep. Obviously, he's how many miles
Yeah.
is he putting on his motorcycle or jeep?
Well, well, no, he does. Forget the motorcycle. He just keeps Nightcrawler in his back pocket.
He keeps crawling. He's got AI. He's like, what do you do? I got to schedule my meetings, man. I got a poker game with the thing at the Baxter building. But at half an hour later, I got to be at a meeting with the Avengers, and then I got to double back here with the X-Men because for a training room session. Oh, by the way, I'm also a teacher and I got to be over in Matapor because I have a deal going through and I got to be there as Patch. And Nick Fury needs me to run this mission. So I got to be in S.H.I.E.L.D. by 11 o'clock tonight. All right, let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know
All
people are
right.
listening going, Barry, you're making jokes. And I'm like, really? If you've read anything the past couple of years with Wolverine in
Yeah.
there, no,
Well,
I'm not.
ever since the reassembly
Mm,
of the Avengers, basically, it
yeah.
was like Wolverine's in every book. Sorry
It's
for my
true.
language.
It's
Anyway,
all good.
and then
Like,
we have other things like okay, um, well, let's talk about a few universes that disappeared, as in Ultra and Milestone. We'll start with
yeah.
Ultra.
All right,
Why the
let's go with.
Ultraverse disappear?
Mhm.
Ultraverse disappeared because Marvel Comics decided to buy Malibu so the DC wouldn't get their hands on them. And then they did everything they could to kill off, raise the prices. Didn't didn't support the characters.
Right.
Rebooted everything. And then did a crossover, Black September, as they called
Mhm.
it, and which they changed people's powers and even some of their origins.
So, who was characters that stood out for you, or maybe one of your favorites that you lean to in the Ultraverse?
Hard Case
Yeah. Okay.
and the Strangers.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't care that much for Prime because I thought it was a ripoff of Shazam.
Right. I love Prime.
Unfortunately, because of the
Yep.
writers' issues, we can't have Prime anymore.
No. 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 And it's a shame. I mean, is he a ripoff of Shazam? Absolutely. But I was also drawn in by Norm Burfogel's art.
That was good.
That's what, and it lived up to. I guess it had that energy with it. And what I mean by energy, if you're a 12-year-old, if you see 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds today, they're all walking down the street, they're overly loud. I mean, they're still trying to figure who they're out as people. And I think he captured that visual energy of, yeah, it's going to be Prime, and like really over the top, because you're not going to turn into Prime, have all these powers, and like, who are you? I'm Prime, man.
Yeah,
Especially when he had his classic look, and then when he wanted to get, him and his girlfriend had a falling out, he was all upset, so he got like the spikes on his arm, and
yeah,
he put a black
yeah.
costume, he got the piercing in his nose. Like, that's
Got a
his
little dark.
perception of how to be a tough guy, or how to
Yeah,
be right. And I think
yeah.
like with Norm's art, it really sold it for me. I don't know if anyone else could have. I've seen other artists do it, and they got the proportions like really out of distorted, which is partly of it, but they didn't capture the energy behind the character.
No, no, I could see that. But there's some good characters there. And now nothing being done with them.
Nope, nope, nope.
And Marvel's take is, well, we don't want to pay these creators that we never hired.
Mm,
So I don't know. And then we have Milestone for DC. Let's go to the other side
yes,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Actual, actual, actual ethos.
Yeah.
Racism. We get into politics. We get into Um, Class structure war.
Relationships. I mean, look
Yeah,
at Icon with Icon and Rocket having a baby out of wedlock, so to speak. And I'm trying to use that to be YouTube friendly,
yeah,
but that's what she was dealing with. And
right. And
the fact that
Icon's basic personality being set from growing up throughout the 1700s and 1800s being, you're supposed to get married before you. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
he's trying to play dad to her.
That was so good. And once again, I don't know why DC, it doesn't try to do more with the characters. I mean, the storyline, it was selling until
Yeah, yeah,
McDuffie passed away, and then
yeah.
I guess he
That was
wasn't
it.
there to push to be that rock.
Well,
I know the other creators did their best, and I'm not saying not,
they,
but
yeah, no, no, but that isn't the situation. Dwayne was a bit of a friend of mine. We became good friends when we started up the blacksuperheroes.com web pages.
okay, okay,
Because me being a historian
yeah,
and him being who he was, we got into there and really had some nice chats.
hmm
Um, and the way Dwayne said to me before he died was he was negotiating it because DC wanted to bring everybody into a more inside of the DC multiverse instead of Dakota being its own thing,
hmm
way out there, so that people could interact more.
right,
And he died as they were doing the negotiations on that. They did bring them in, but they
yeah, they
didn't
did.
listen to the other creators as much.
No,
At least they're trying to bring them back now.
yeah, and I see that, and I know they had that, update with the universe and the history and everything. So I know they are.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, out of all that, I mean, like hard, you know, my gosh, hard. I mean, we talk about these characters now. I mean, I'm drawing a blank. It's been a long day. So not Icon. You
Mm-hmm.
had Icon, Rocket,
Hardware,
Hardware. Thank you. Hardware was one that stood out
Blood
for me.
Syndicate.
Blood Syndicate was good, but Hardware really stood out for me. You know, the
That was
he
more
pretty
over.
much
I'm a team guy.
You're a team guy?
So
Yeah, I see. And I was like Hardware because he was no matter how smart he was, how they portrayed him, how they used certain archetypes, he was still at heart the disgruntled employee. He was the guy going to
yeah,
work and it's like, these people took my ideas. This guy's keeping me down. Oh, really? I want to show him. And everyone, when you go to work at some point, might have a disgruntled moment. I'm not saying present day,
yeah,
but throughout your working history, at some point, there must have been a part time job you did before or another job you're doing where you kind of go to work and go, man.
yeah, yeah. I think
and
we all
and
go
I think
through it
that
at some point.
yeah, and I think they portrayed it well with him. So
Mm-hmm.
that is true. And I think like there's other comic book companies out there besides Marvel, besides DC. There's a lot of smaller ones, right? And I mean, there
Yeah.
was one I liked, and I don't know what happened to their stories. I don't think they ever got an official ending either. So that was, and I'll put it on you here, Larry. Community Comics.
Oh God. Yeah. Neil Adams.
Right, right. Now I liked the Armor and Blue Streak. I
Mm-hmm.
like those two. And then they got the other, I guess it was supposed to be their main guy, Megalith or
Yep.
Monolith, right?
Monolith.
Monolith, thank you. To form the team, the Revengers.
Mm-hmm. And Miss
Now,
Mystic.
yeah, Miss Mystic, thank you. So did the art catch my eye, Neil Adams? Yes, it did. I'm not gonna say not. Now, did some of the pacing in the story really hold up to what it should have been? No. But for Armor and Blue Streak, when they were together in their own book, it showed how they were two brothers, taken by aliens, one given powers and the other one
Mm-hmm.
taught to be the ultimate warrior.
Right.
And then they kind of go head to head. And then they team up and they rebel and they try to get back to Earth. So when you're reading Armor and Blue Streak, you're like, oh man, this is awesome. Okay, we're seeing how they got from Earth, outer space, what's happening, how they split apart. how they're getting back together, and it's some shocking moments in there between the two of them. But then you're
Yeah.
reading, Revengers, and you're like, wait a minute, how did they get back to Earth? Because one storyline had them going to space, and this storyline takes them when they're a little bit more established. They're not
Yeah.
drawn any older, and they're supposed to be dealing with things, and then there was never that gap that was explained in between, like how those two came back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It just kind of,
I'm Neil kind of let that I Neil kind of let that die out without saying much to it. Yeah, he was getting older. He was like starting to want to lay off more. Um, they brought him back to some DC comics, and even there, he was like, you could see that things. I mean, he did a um, he did a 12 issue Batman maxi series about
I
2011,
know.
and you can see where he was before he died.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Um, but
I was
and
excited for it. I bought a
yeah,
couple of issues, and I sat
yeah,
there and I read them, and I went, huh?
it wasn't the 1970s anymore, is the way
No.
I looked at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like the
because
stories
his
just
70s, 1970s stuff, I mean, that's what took us from campy Batman to dark Batman.
right. That was what was in between. You know what I mean? That was
Mm,
the link.
yeah, yeah.
Without him, I don't think we would have had the Dark Knight, Batman Year One, those
Mm-mm.
storylines that changed the narrative so much for this character.
Yeah. So, um, and he was a nice interim from, you know, uh, no, Robin, we can't go through this skylight to stop him because it'd be breaking and entering. What the hell? That's the 60s, you know, to Batman meeting Ra's al Ghul and fighting Dracula, or what, another vampire pretending to be
Yeah,
Dracula,
yeah,
and
the
so
whole
forth.
Son of Batman,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Breath of
and
Robin.
that's yeah, all the way through. And but yeah, Neil Adams, he he was a great artist. He was an awesome writer.
Mhm.
He just shouldn't have been editor.
No, true. And thing is, I like the characters that he made, right? Like Monolith,
Yeah,
Armor, and Blue Streak, and Miss Mystic. I like those, that world that
yeah,
was coming up together. And I figure, I still feel that if you brought those characters back right now, tweaked them a little bit, I think it would still sell. I
yeah. Oh
believe
yeah,
there's interest there
yeah,
for them.
yeah. But Neil needed somebody like Jim Shooter,
Yeah,
who's like right there, minor details when he's editing. He's like,
yeah,
you did not see a crossover in any book with Jim Shooter unless he knew they were going to be right in the same place at the same time.
right. And as Jim Shooter, like, he's controversial. I mean, love him, hate him kind of thing. Yeah, but his work speaks that it makes sense.
Yeah.
If you bought those books, if you went and picked up any books that he was editor on, let's say in a 3 month span, right, at
Mm-hmm.
Marvel, you go and you just walk into your local comic book store, go to the back
Yeah.
issues and grab those, and then read
Yeah.
them in the order they were released in. You're like, oh, this makes sense. This is why we had more team books, I think, back then, right? Especially with DC Presents. We mentioned this before. Marvel team up with Spider-Man, or Spider-Man's Marvel team up. Books along those lines made sense because you would see it's like, okay, Spider-Man's teaming up with Captain Britain. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, wait a minute, Arcade just finished fighting the X-Men, and he'll reference it saying, okay, Arcade escaped the X-Men, and you'll see a little side note, issue X-Men issue 2, whatever, whatever, to this issue, so it took place after that. So when
Yeah.
they verbally reference it, they tell you what comic to read before that, and
Yeah.
that's where,
Back in the 60s, 70s, down at the bottom, have a little thing at the bottom saying, see this issue.
yeah,
How did so and so escape from this prison? Or
exactly,
whatever. Yeah.
and that's
Um,
what I miss.
yeah. Yeah. I miss those. I miss that. I miss some of the letter pages.
Yeah,
As I really miss things like where they would do the um, DC trivia or questions at the bottom
answer
of the
man.
page. Yeah, the answer man. Remember that? Yeah, those. That always brought, especially when it'd be like, okay, somebody asked a question about Golden Age character because I didn't know that many Golden Age characters in the 70s. The only time I saw a Golden Age character was if there was a DC special or it was the annual Justice League JSA crossover.
Right. Yes.
You didn't see a Golden Age character otherwise.
No. And those were so much fun too. I mean, the ones that caught my eye was George Perez, right? I know there's ones before that, but when George Perez was doing Justice League and he brought them in there, one, rest in peace, George. He loved drawing multiple characters on a screen. I mean, on a page,
Yeah.
right? So where most artists like, ooh, man, there's like 10 characters. George is like, yo, okay, we got 50 on here, and I can squeeze more into this panel. Who can I add in? Let's do it. And his art was so good. So when he had those crossovers with them and they're fighting Darkseid, I mean, first of all, Justice League, Justice Society, you're bringing in Darkseid, so that's gateway to the new gods. Orion is showing up, Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, Light Ray, and then you get
Legion.
the Racer, the Dark
Yeah.
Racer,
Then
even
you
though
get the
he's in
Legion
bright
popping
colors.
in from the corner.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's
Like
the time bubble over there.
right, those are what makes comics fun for me, right? And I mean, I read a lot of
Yeah.
them now. When I look at comics now, I find that there was more action, like just physically the characters were always moving or doing something action pose. Now I find there's a lot of word balloons because I guess it's more psychological. It's changing the times, but this is why I always lean back to some of the older stuff. I want to see someone get punched in the face if you're reading a superhero book. I don't want to see them on the top of a building going hmm, and then talking, and then it was one panel of movement. So that's what I'm missing overall. Oh, I'm not sure, people, if I lost Larry or if he froze on me, but I'm gonna keep on going till he pops back in. So
Issue with Daredevil
there we
in
go.
the 80s. Yeah, I had an issue with Daredevil in the 80s
Mhm.
because of it was like reading so much text boxes.
Yeah,
And I just got to the point of, man, you're writing a great story, but do I have to have this much background?
it needs to have a fine balance.
Yeah, yeah. And um, he did that with Batman Returns.
Mhm.
But prior to that, with Daredevil and the Deathstalker story,
Yeah,
that was a pain. But then, but of course, we're talking about abandoned things too here. So let's talk um, some of the other things that disappeared and got abandoned. Um, we would have characters from the 80s because comic companies failing, going bye bye.
right, right.
I mean, originally we were not going to get into the elementals
No, no,
until
and we
Comico
talked
got
about this before, right?
yeah.
El-
DNA agents that almost didn't have an ending.
wow. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Um, I'm not sure. Did you ever read X Mutants?
I actually have only one issue of it. Uh,
I don't believe it ever finished.
from what I looked up, but just out of curiosity, I don't think so either. And I remember what caught my eyes because they weren't even normal format. The book was a little bit smaller
Yep,
than a normal format,
yep,
so it almost looked like a manga. Before I knew what it was
yeah,
a manga book would look like, kind
almost,
of thing.
almost.
Yeah,
And then you
size wise.
had adaptions like um, they were going to adapt all of the Michael Moorcock, Elrico Melnibone series.
They
They
did
didn't.
some of those with Epic, right?
Epic, First Comics, a couple other, but I don't believe all 6 books have been, well, 8 books have been done.
Oh, there's 8. Okay.
Um, yeah.
See, I didn't know. I thought
Well,
there
it
was only
was 6
6.
original.
Okay,
It
all
was
right.
6 originally, then there are 2 that came out later.
And those are
Uh,
easy reads, and I'll say that, right? For
yeah.
novels, like for half a
Yeah.
second, I remember coming across them in Epic Comics because I didn't know about the character. And then playing Dungeons and Dragons, I got the hardcover Deities and Demigods, and they
Right.
had a whole section in there with these characters. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should read these books. So then I remember
Yeah.
going to my local bookstore at the time and found, not comic book store, but bookstore, and found the actual
Yeah.
novels. So I bought the whole set in one shot, and the covers were really nice. It was like this white
Yeah.
cover, very mist. And for novels, there weren't that many. It was like what, maybe 200 pages in the novel, so it was a very fast read
Yeah.
overall. And I was like, oh, this character has got some sides to him. And this is something I'm surprised nobody's tackled yet. I've seen Lord of the Rings, we've seen House of Dragon, we've seen Conan the Barbarian. We've never seen an Elric. We've seen Final Fantasy, we've seen Dungeons and Dragons. This is something that would scream to be
Oh
on the
yeah,
screen, the big screen.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they adapted them to comics, and
Mhm.
just like Conan. Um, Fortunately, I mean, they ran through all the Conan adaptions. Roy Thomas did a good job on that, and um, then they started writing their own adventures
Right,
of Conan. So, they could have done that with these characters. I mean, Michael Moorcock's still alive. I'm
right.
sure he'd find some if they actually were, no, okay, we're going to actually do the full story and be faithful. He'd be glad to do it.
I mean, look, we got The Witcher on Netflix, right? That ran for a while.
Yeah.
Those are all books, but now I know there was a change between what we saw and what people read. I get it, but it's still
Hmm.
popular. And Elric, I think
Yeah.
there's some books and storylines that surprise me haven't made it onto, be it if it's an adult animated series.
Right.
And what I mean by that, like, I don't want it to be like a Saturday morning cartoon where, I'm Elric of Melbourne. I have the power. No, it's
No,
no,
no.
it's got to be like a creature
Sorry.
commandos. Yeah,
You got a
right.
soul sucking sword. That is for adults.
Well, exactly. And there's a character with a sword. I mean, Katana. Is it Katana? Yeah, it's Katana from DC Comics, right? The Outsiders. There's
Yeah.
another prime example. So,
Hmm.
Elric should be, in my opinion, on a big screen. The world is already fleshed
Yeah.
out. All you got to do is copy paste, give it a look, stay true. It will do well. Be it if it's going to be
Yeah.
who gets behind it, don't know, but it's
Oh.
no brainer.
All right, so what's another series you could think of their character that disappeared? I know Aztec's one of mine.
Yes, yes, and we've talked about him on the show. And Aztec, for what his purpose is supposed to be, his story kind of wrapped up in the Justice League instead of his own book. You
Yeah.
know, for myself, it's gonna be one of the newer characters. And when I mean newer, I'm not talking like 50 years ago. I'm talking like Zor-El. So the angel that was brought in on the Justice League when Grant Morrison was writing it to be the Hawkman replacement. They did a
Right.
great storyline introducing the character, a three-part thing where bringing in the DC version or one of their versions of Heaven versus Hell,
Yeah,
and
the
it was,
Thrones.
thank you, exactly. And then after that storyline was done, after Grant seemed to have left the series, the character was there, and no one, once again, he had Hawkman syndrome. What do we do with him? I don't know. They tried different looks. They tried giving him his own series, but
The only
who
place he fit in was Shadow Pact, and then he killed that off.
right? Okay, yeah. So that's some changes I don't like. Right? Like, I mean, I was all into this character because I'm a huge Hawkman fan. So when I saw how it was, how they're portraying him, I was like A1. It's like going back. You mentioned before Nova. I like classic Nova.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are into the new Nova, and we talked about Nova with one of my on
Well,
this show also. And my pet peeve is you're a teenager, so you're in high school. You get the powers of one of the Centurions, like the one. Okay, so
mhm.
it's almost like a Green Lantern thing. Then you realize, besides the powers, and you didn't even fully explore all your powers, you got a spaceship in orbit the size of 3 football fields, full of technology, its own AI, whole lot of weapons, and you don't take it for a test spin. It's like kind of saying, "Hey, mom and dad have left the house." Like Fresh Prince of Bel Air is what we used to say, right? Like,
Yeah.
Will Smith in his song. Parents don't understand. His parents went away and left the keys to the Porsche. Of course, he's going to drive it. Like,
Yeah.
you've got a spaceship. And I talked about this, Rod Nelson. You tell me I got a spaceship sitting there. I can fly to it and take off anywhere in the universe, and I'm just
Well,
going to leave it in orbit.
Darkhawk had the same syndrome. He's got an
Who's
interdimensional spaceship.
who's this?
Darkhawk.
See? Yes,
See, this
yes.
doesn't even go through space. It goes dimensionally. You know,
And
I mean, it goes into subspace,
that's
and it's a Shi'ar ship, technically.
oh, you got the keys. You just okay. Where we going? I don't know. Take me to spin around the moon. Like
Yeah,
no. The
yeah.
only time I think they properly used it, I mean, it was later on in the storylines, but there's a
Mhm.
what if, and I can't remember the issue number, but it's what if other people got the power of Nova, and it's like four
Yeah,
short stories that's in there. And one
yeah.
of the stories is you don't know if it's Richard Rider, but it turns out to be a criminal who gets the power of Nova. So he's got a big cigar. He's got all the villains from the Marvel universe on his spaceship, and he's running it like a gang. And they've turned around and they did what I call pre-wanted by Mark Miller, where all the villains have gotten rid of all the heroes on Earth, and now they're fighting over it. So you got like Doctor Doom there, and they all try to turn on each other. They turn on Nova, and Nova's like, "What? You can't turn on me. I control this ship." And he's got the cigar going. He's got one of these space guns along with his powers, and they're fighting on the ship. And I'm like, that makes sense. They used the spaceship to get rid of X-Men, Fantastic
Yeah.
Four, Spider-Man. Did like that? Okay, so that was it. But for guys who've disappeared completely, that's a good one. I'd have to think about other ones who've disappeared. Like I said, Zarel. Uh, you mentioned Aztec who disappeared.
Sleepwalker.
Um, yeah, Sleepwalker. We talked about him too. Once again, gone.
Yep.
Um, one I was interested in, and they were doing well, and they just kind of disappeared. Was Power Pack.
Oh yeah, kids.
Yeah, yeah, but they were growing up. You got your powers as kids, and literally the last name was Powers.
Yeah,
And you once again they had a spaceship. They used it though. They used it,
yeah, they
and
did.
they did use it. And then their powers switched, and then only one person, one sibling, got all the powers. He absorbed the powers from the rest of them and carried on. So Power Pack,
Well,
yeah, that's where I
there's
fell off. I don't know what happened
I
after.
I've seen them semi recently,
Mhm.
and you've got Julie
Okay,
has two of the powers.
right,
Alex has two of the powers.
huh?
The other two are off in school. So
Okay,
the young, yeah, the two youngest are off in
okay,
school.
gotcha. All right, yeah,
But they also done a possible future where Katie ends up being the only one with the powers because all the other ones get killed.
wow,
Yeah.
wow.
So,
Okay, see, I didn't know that one.
um, yeah. Um,
Those are things we mentioned like the shield before. At one point I know there was different versions of the shield, right? You had the
yeah.
classic one in the 50s. The one I'm talking is when they brought him back and he was like a government agent, and then they had the web, and instead of the web being a person, the web was a secret organization within
Yeah.
that world,
Yeah.
with the human rocket, the fly, and that whole, and they had a whole crisis themselves. Like they worked together as they had their individual books, the Jaguar, and then they
Hmm.
got together as Crusaders, and then they actually worked towards a overall storyline that hit a point where the
Yeah.
reason why they had to team up.
You're
And then
talking
after that,
about DC Comics when they had the Impact imprint.
yeah, yeah, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And then
And
after
those were
that,
all of the Archie Comics heroes, such as the Shield, the Comet, the Fly,
mm,
um, and so forth. And it wasn't bad. Actually, I don't think they got the rights to the Fly at all that time. They had somebody else. But anyway, but it wasn't bad. But of course, then DC Comics loses the license for a while, gets it back later,
mm,
and decides to do a totally different story concept. Uh, and then we have, but yeah, the Crusaders have a weird, but we did a whole thing on that, as I
yeah,
remember. So, um, but yeah, they had a lot of the problem that at least they come back,
it's true.
you know.
So it's
Um, Thunder
so let me have
Agents.
this. Yeah. So let me have
Nobody
you
knows
this
what to
one.
do with Thunder Agents.
See that needs to come back, right? Like that, and also what's the other Legion, Alien Legion.
Oh yes, yes.
So
Alien Legion. I agree. And Strike Force Moratori.
no, for we who are about to die, like that. Once again, the art got me. I got I remember going to the corner store and buying like every issue. This before the local comic book store just to get those. back then because I thought that concept was good. That was a great storyline. See, that's something that needs to come to a big screen, small screen, and tell that story, regardless if they want to do it animated or not. We got to break that one down. Uh,
Yeah, we should.
there's so many, and like, and here's my thing. What I would like to see. I mean, there's a lot of things that have gone, you know, unfortunately, and I mean, times are changing. Call me the old man. Get off my lawn. That I would love to see come back. So things I'd like to see come back, like really steady. Bring back What If.
Yes,
Bring back What If, because
yes,
every hero in Marvel has to always make a pinnacle choice in a year. And you see What If has worked really well on the Disney as animated, but keep in mind, I'm talking volume one of What If, because volume one of What If is what gave us, Jane Foster as Thor before they made it canon,
yep, yep.
right? Daredevil, What If Daredevil was an agent of Shield, and and once again, Frank Miller, who did the art for that book, for that story, I was like, I'm all in. So bring back like the volume one feel of What If. I don't
Yeah.
need it to be a 5-story arc. Give me one story. Instead of this decision, they made this decision. What if the X-Men were still vampires? Yeah. You know, I think that opens up to all that. I like that whole thing. And then DC, of course, jumped on it with Elseworlds, and they came up with prestige formats. Unfortunately, with DC, in my opinion, they didn't expand it enough. It started off with Superman. No, started off with Batman, or I can't remember who was first one with Elseworlds, but there was a Superman
Elseworlds.
story,
Elseworlds' first one was Speeding Bullets.
Speeding Bullets. Okay, right? Because I remember, and then I know they did a lot of the Batman stories, like Gotham by Gaslight,
Yep,
Batman Holy Terror, which I
yep,
really liked. Once again, Norm.
yep.
I don't think
And
there was no Wonder Woman storylines, eh? Was there? Elseworlds?
now
I don't
there
recall.
were a couple. There were a couple. But you didn't see much of them. And then they did that whole um Elseworlds annuals.
Yeah,
That year they did annuals, and every annual was an Elseworld.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, which were interesting concepts there. Um, especially the one where Wally West had lost his legs.
Yeah. Ouch, but yeah.
And yeah, that was kind of dark. um, you had Batman as a pirate. My favorites, I'm trying to remember, um, was Batman as a Green Lantern.
Oh, you like that one? Okay, yeah.
That was my favorite.
My favorite, honestly, is the Elseworlds tale where it's Batwoman instead of
Hmm.
Batman, and Bruce Wayne is still there, and he
Oh,
funds her, right? And
hmm.
I can't remember who the art. I like the artist. I can't remember who the art. If it was Peter, um, I think it was him. Is it Peter? Peter, not Peter David. He's the one that did Excalibur, the original
Oh,
Excalibur run. I
hmm.
believe he was the artist. I could be wrong, or
I'm
the
not
art's very
sure.
similar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
you guys were just pulling this up
now
by memory, and
now if you
that.
and then if you even go further from there,
Mhm.
um, Thrill Killers,
Which one?
Thrill Killers, where Barbara Gordon basically becomes Batwoman. Bruce is a cop, and Dick is a trapeze artist, but he's an adult when he joins Barbara and her. And there's a female Joker. It was the
And that's why I
first
said
female Joker.
first. Wow, okay, and that's what I
Yeah,
like. So you know what? I love to see. I said, what if Elseworlds come back? That's first and foremost. Two, I miss the Marvel, not the prestige books. I know there's a title for it. I call it out once again, old man brain. When we had the death of the graphic novels, when they did
yeah, the
the
graphics.
one shot graphic novels, where
Yeah.
the death of Captain Marvel, Star Raiders, so forth like
Hmm.
that. That's what I love to see. And I miss the giant size books.
Yeah.
Believe where they did the
The
giant size
treasuries
book. Yeah,
are, yeah, the treasuries. And I miss it. Hell, I even miss, where they used to do like Marvel had, okay, comics for 25 cents, 25 cents when I was a kid. 50 cents, you got giant size Avengers. Came out 4 times a month, a week, a year. I mean, 4 times a year. Yeah. The last Giants Adventures, they changed it to King Size. It was King Size Adventures 10, and that was the first time that Rogue appeared.
Yes, yes.
And then after that, everything was just called annual, annual, annual.
And I was okay with annuals. I'll get back with that for half a second. But
It's
I
fine
was
with
saying,
that, but we had King Size, we had Giant, made it
right,
feel,
important, different. Yes.
special. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I remember like when they used to do the giant size format where it was like Superman versus Muhammad Ali and Superman versus Spider-Man, right?
that's the
And
Treasury
then
editions.
that's the Treasury editions. And then I like that one, where it was like Superman, the Fortress of Solitude, and literally he's just flying through the fortress and explaining where everything is, what everything is there,
Mm-hmm.
significant as he's going through, and it was like
Yeah,
huge, and I love those ones, right? The same thing with
yep,
Shazam. So those formats I miss. I know they won't do it, but I figure it'd be nice if they do it once a year. Come up with at least one. Get back to that
yeah,
one, and then the annuals. I love that you were able to buy an annual and say, okay, here's what the storylines we're going to aim to. So I know they really use that with Justice League International,
mm,
where it was the more jokey one where they would do all their
yeah,
issues and then the annual come out and it was like all the hardcore hitting action, and that's all the action you're going to get for the year, and then the rest of the year is going to be building up to it. I don't mean it has to be done that way. I just miss an annual that would wrap up a storyline for a year, or you have a couple of crossovers in there, like Atlantis Attacks was
yeah,
one that really stands to mind. You got
yeah,
all the individual books, but you didn't have to read each and every individual book to understand what was going on. And you got your annual, you got your big event, and then that was something they would advertise saying, "Okay, this is what's coming up. Atlantis Attacks. We're 6 months out from planning it, or coming out. Prepare for it." So
yeah.
those
But
are things I miss.
okay, so you have like 26 comic titles, more or less. You
Mhm.
had him, maybe 18 of them had an annual during the year
Right, right.
because some of them were not.
Mhm.
Okay, so you have 18 books you got to pick up and tells you the whole story.
Yeah,
Instead of now where it's crossover. Okay, we're going to do Secret Wars 3, and you have to pick up this is this, and this month.
yeah.
And I got to read these for how many? 4 months?
No, and especially if there's not
You're
characters
making me
that
buy
you
20
personally
extra
connect with.
books. Yeah,
Well,
making me
that's
buy
it. Just to
20
have the
extra books.
storyline.
I don't want to buy 20 extra books.
No, no. Be it if you have the budget for it, or you're just not interested in those particular characters, right? The whole thing about comics is you
Yeah,
buy the characters you're interested in.
yeah,
Now I know
exactly.
people jump on the main ones because those are the ones that are the flagship for any comic
Hmm.
company, right? Regardless if it's the two
Yeah,
big ones, three big ones, if you want to put Image in there or whoever else. Okay, I get that. But then there's other characters that are going to speak to people. Like when we did the Sleepwalker episode, I was talking to someone at a comic book store, and we're talking about. I was telling him about the show, and he goes, "Oh, one of my favorite characters is Sleepwalker." And that's when I went, "Huh." I never really read Sleepwalker. Let me go back and do that. He goes, "Hey man, if you do that, I'll sign up." I'm like, "Promise, deal." So went read it. Was not a long series to read. We did the
no,
character,
50
and he
issues.
gave us a good shout out on it, and that was fun. That's what it's supposed to be with that interaction. Now, but I read it on my own originally, no. But then there's other books like I like Backlash from Image
Yeah,
from the Wildstorm
yep.
universe. That's a character I like a
Hmm.
lot. There's a book called Gung Fu or Gun Fu, right? Which
Yeah,
was like an
gun fu.
independent 3 issue
Hmm.
Bolson, and that I want to talk about in the future. So these are books I talk about. There's a series called Triton where the artist, I only saw his work show up in Heavy Metal magazine, and then they
Yeah,
put it into like a graphic novel,
yeah,
collected,
yeah.
and I was like,
Yeah, there's a
okay.
couple books out there I love right now. I mean, um, you have to pick up back issues now because the series is over, but Ninja, Viking, Samurai.
I never even heard of it. Ninja Viking Samurai.
I'm sorry, Cowboy Viking Ninja.
Oh, okay, okay,
Cowboy
yes.
Viking Ninja.
Cowboy
And
Viking
then
Ninja.
there's yeah, and then there's Saga.
Yep, heard good things about that. But
Yep.
once again, like you don't want to get a ton of books. Like, and this is why I
No.
appreciate what Mark Miller is doing, right, with his Miller
Hmm.
World.
Yeah.
Where it's like 5 issues, 6 issues, and we're done, and then he moves on to the next project. And what he did is, he did what comedians call a callback. A comedian would do a joke at the very beginning of their set. They'll make a punchline out of that joke, and then they'll do the rest of their set for like 40 minutes, and then they come back at the very end,
Yeah.
and they'll just do the tagline from that very first joke, which is a callback, and it makes you remember it. You don't have to set it up; it's already done. And he was really
Yeah.
brilliant when he did that. I mean, he came up with Wanted. Then there's a lot of series that I jumped on with his because they're easy reads. I don't have to invest and look for,
Nemesis.
yeah, Nemesis. Exactly. I don't have to look for years of material. MPH,
Yeah.
which is one I liked a lot. And then you go back, and then he did a callback with, Big Game. And it was like, okay, what's Big Game? And that was the excitement of it, is that he brought back things from Wanted, the comic book,
Hmm.
to Big Game. And I was like, wow, that's an amazing callback. Good on you, sir. Well done. But you don't have to commit. And there's characters. I said I didn't read every one of the ones he put out, but there's some I followed, yes, 100% religiously, and some of them are off the beaten
Yeah.
path, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. But at least that his stuff they finished.
Yeah. We're looking at you, Atlas Comics. We're looking at you, and Epic,
Well,
and
yeah. Atlas didn't exactly have much of a choice.
no, 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 no.
Simply
I,
put.
I, I kid them. No, they didn't. And of course, and then sometimes it just changes. It changes hands, right? They
Yep.
they start off in one comic book company, and then they get bought and they get merged in, and then this is on the writers. How come you're not using them? I get it. As a writer, you want to have your name attached to a selling book, but I think the other responsibility of a writer is test your metal once in a while, and take
Hmm.
one that's not really doing so good, and then get that free reign from it.
Yeah.
Classic example, I mean, maybe not the best example, but the way I look at it is Blade from Marvel. Blade
Okay.
from Marvel, C-list character at best at the time when he was
In the
in Marvel.
70s, yes.
Original C-list at best, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then Wesley Snipes got the IP for it, said, I'm gonna make a movie of it. Marvel's like, yeah, man, we're going bankrupt anyways. Can't hurt. Do what you want to do. And the movie did phenomenal. And people were all coming up talking about Wesley Snipes and Blade. And I remember, and I've said this story before, where I was in the theater and people didn't realize he was a Marvel character. And I'm walking out saying, you guys just watched a superhero movie. And people, oh, I don't like superhero movies. Well, you just watched one. No, I didn't. I watched a vampire movie. Okay. And we sat at the end, and I like, you see the credits? And it said, here, this person, and it had Marvel. And then when the second movie came out, is when they had a big splash logo, because he still saved them from bankruptcy.
Yep.
So took a character. He didn't really do many changes with the origin. The origin you see
Few
in
minor ones.
Blade the movie, right? It was minor. I mean, there's always be some changes, but it's still true. The bones and everything are still there from
All
the
right.
comic book origin.
Yeah, I
Just gave,
mean, but
yeah,
originally he didn't have vampiric tendencies,
no,
but other than that, he immune to vampiric bite.
yep.
Um,
He
a
was
little
adopted.
faster than normal.
Yep, yep. He was trained by
Uh,
someone else. His mom was
yep,
in a certain lifestyle, right? That
yep.
they kind of portrayed, and he still ran into his mom. So Deacon Frost. So the
And
main
Deacon Frost
block,
bit his mom when she was pregnant. So
yeah,
yeah,
the main blocks were there. And all he
yeah,
did was say, okay, let me just give him a different story. Instead of him having spikes, I'm going to give him a sword. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, when he originally started, they were basically wooden knives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because,
and
vampires, right? The stakes in the heart.
yeah,
So,
Tomb of Dracula.
see, that's another one. Tomb of Dracula, Daughter of Dracula. And that ran for a long time.
Yep,
I'm not sure if
but
they
it
gave it a
finished.
proper. It did finish.
Oh yeah, it had a proper finish. It had a proper finish. Matter of fact, you had the very last issue.
Hmm.
Um, you had his. They adapted this actually into a cartoon in Japan. Um, that was made for Japan. You can actually get it usually and a bootleg copy.
Hmm.
Look, Tomb of Dracula animated series, animated movie, and his he has a son through magical means.
Hmm.
The son gets inhabited by an angel. The angel kills Dracula. Um, and Quincy Harker, who's the professor like character, um, dies in the same issue. And then you have Frank Drake, Dracula's descendant,
Hmm.
and I forgot what the female one is, character that they go off to live life. then later on, the female becomes basically cursed with vampiric tendencies, and Doctor Strange ends up casting the Montesi formula.
Oh yes, okay,
No
yeah,
more vampires.
no more vampires, right? Yeah, where they do talk
And then
about
they
in the
brought him
Dark
back
Suns.
slowly.
Yeah, right. Okay. So here, I'll hit you with this last one here, Larry. For myself, it's who's another character I really enjoyed. Once again,
Hmm.
more recent. I don't think she ever had a proper ending, and I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong. Is Angela from Image Comics, because she starts off in Spawn, then they gave
Yes.
her her own series, right?
Yes.
And then between writer disputes and who's going back and blah blah blah, she goes and ends up in Marvel, and they make her the forgotten
Yes.
sister of Thor.
Yes.
I'm looking at you, He-Man. She-Ra, I'm looking at you.
Yeah. And then they basically have her defeat Hela,
Mhm.
become Queen of Hell, and then I have no idea what happened to her.
Character went off the rails. Like, was the character cool?
Because
If you go
the
back, and I'm telling you, everyone that's watching or listening, go back and look up, Spawn with Angela's first appearance. Look and get her miniseries, because her miniseries, she goes on trial and she's a angel hunting demons.
that was
Spartan is supposed to be a
awesome.
demon, and yeah, and I thought, what goes on with her, she kind of gets into a conspiracy and backstabbed, and oh yeah, she's hardcore. She's hardcore. Like I was all for that. And then she
Uh,
ends up in Marvel, and I'm like, okay. And then it was she's a forgotten
Yeah.
sister of Thor, and I was like,
Yeah.
hold up.
Yeah. And she's basically been ditched to the out there because recently I was seeing one of the other um Thor storylines where they're making immortal. And Hela's back in charge of Hell, so where the f did Angela go? Um yeah, Marvel has a history of doing that with some characters. Usually it's side characters, but um every once in a while you see a major character did so like, okay,
Just
you were
gone.
gonna this was supposed to be your big breakout, and well, where'd they go?
It's like, yep, yep. I couldn't tell you. Um, it's the same thing. Did you watch the Daredevil series, Daredevil Born Again?
Be honest, I'm one episode away from the end
Okay,
of season two.
so this is no spoiler for you. In there, you'll see there's a police officer in there, right? They ends up leaving. He gets injured. He comes back. Everyone's like, "Oh, you're back." Light skinned
Yeah.
guy. He's got part of his face kind of burnt. If you listen to the name, and I know I'm not going to call it the name properly right now, but if you listen to the name of the character in there, this character was supposed to be the another Black Panther. When Christopher Priest was doing Black Panther and T'Challa was no longer Black Panther, another person took over. He was a police officer, and he had, like, normal, like,
Lucas
cargo
Cole.
pants right at the bottom, and he had on the Black Panther outfit at the top, and a trench coat. That's the character.
Yeah, Casper Cole.
Casper Cole, thank you. And that's who's there. And I'm thinking, but you didn't even tie him in to Black Panther yet. And the MCU, I know they do things differently, but there's someone that had a big storyline in a comic book, and this
Yeah,
kind of disappeared on screen, right?
yeah,
Or
he's
sometimes it's
because
vice versa.
in Marvel Comics he's the cool tiger now,
Yeah.
but they never
Yes.
use him.
Nope. Nope.
Um, you don't see um the second Black Widow
Yeah. Nope.
in Marvel Comics, but you see the Red Widow now.
Yep. You know,
So I don't
I
know.
think everyone's just so crazy. The creators are just so adamant on making new characters they think it's gonna be a big hit, that they don't take and go with what's already there, and then try to work with that. So, look, we're
Yeah,
gonna get to the end of this episode, but Larry, let me ask
yeah.
you here. So, who would you like to, out of all the characters that or storylines or comic books or whatever? Is there any, maybe one, two, that you would love to see come back? I'm sure Aztec is probably on your list as
That's
maybe one of
one.
your favorite. Right,
Yep. I'm gonna bring back Thundercat, the Thunder Agents.
Thunder Agents. Okay, that's who you want to see come back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Clearly, you can tell for myself, it's going to be Zor-El. I know Micronauts. I would love to see the
yeah.
classic version of Micronauts come back. That's for sure. Zor-El, I would love to see come back, continue that storyline. You know, these are some of the characters that disappeared, and I said it before. You know, give me back Armor and Blue Streak. Bring them back.
Hmm.
Or continue their adventures. Tell me what happened the rest of the time they're in space and how they got back to Earth before they joined the Revengers. Like, what happened to these two brothers? I literally want to know.
Yeah, yeah. And if I'm going to bring back something independent, I'm going to bring out the DN agents,
Oh, really? DNA agents, right?
and we got
Okay,
to do something on them soon.
deal. Yeah. Oh, I know you like your Tim books. Okay, I'm all for that. This is what this whole channel's about, right? Everyone, I know you. Everyone tunes in and everyone watches the other shows, and that's the other thing I'll say is sometimes maybe it's like I know there's a lot of videos out there, and the other shows might give you full rundowns of all the books and storylines like that, and I want people to kind of hear about it and get curious about it and go and check out their local comic book store and
Yeah,
enjoy the passion of reading. That's where I like to give you a little tidbits, and I never claim to be the end all of all knowledge, but I like to think of at least a doorway to say, "Come on in. There's more."
and what stores can they go out there by you?
Oh, by me, they can definitely check out Check Swings. So go and check out Check Swings over here on the South Shore. You can see Trevor, Dom, Pierre. Those guys are always there. Let them know that you heard about them on iConis podcast. And then for anyone out in Kitchener, on Toronto, Ontario, Kitchener, you can check out Wild Comics. I haven't been there in a while, obviously because I moved, but you can go and see Wes, Ramon, Chris. Right? They're all there. There's 2 floors of goodness. And of course, check out your antique malls. That's what I've been doing. I've been checking a lot of antique malls, and I've been getting some
Yeah.
classics.
And out here in Springfield, Virginia, you can go out to Victory Comics.
Victory Comics is okay. And how big is that one? Is it a big store or more of a quaint store?
It's a fairly intimate store, but you can do some gaming there too.
Oh, okay, all right, all right. See, I like that, right? Because these things, all these comic book stores, not just have comics, they'll have games, they'll have cards, you'll have statues. You know, add to your collection. Clearly, you see, this is only a bit of it. I'm working on my whole space that I'll get there one day. So when it does, you all see it, and good luck to y'all. So there we go. It's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with collecting because it don't hurt nobody. Maybe your wallet, but it's okay. Can't take it with you. I'm going out like an Egyptian prince.
Right.
So
All
there
right.
we
So
go.
all you out there, keep reading, keep writing, keep drawing. You all are creators yourselves, and we're in your corner.
Absolutely. And as I like to say, this whole world started by a pencil, a piece of paper, and lots of imagination. Keep on dreaming. And on that note, thank you for tuning into the iConis podcast. Like, subscribe, and share. Don't let the show be a secret. And remember, you can find us where you got to find us, Rate Barry 3D, and you can find Larry over at on Facebook at.
Forgotten, obscure, underrated comic characters.
Thank you. Respect the rules and have yourselves a great, great day.